Welcome everyone to the Moisky News for May the 7th, 2020. Today we're going to be doing a PMQ response, and this one's a good one. No, we're not playing the video. Well, we will have it on the side, but not with the audio because blustering, bump, and time wasting. It's good though, because Boris Johnson's back, which is fantastic. It does mean that there will be a lot of peen sucking from literally everyone that asks a question, along with congratulating him on the birth of his 6th or 7th child. The topics of the day will include COVID-19, testing, ending lockdown, and the economy. The opinion early on was that Keir Starmer won this, citing Boris's usual demeanour and which is what he does typically for everything he ever says, as the reason for him losing. For the sake of this, we are going to go through it and work out together whether Boris did in fact lose or not. So for the first question, Keir Starmer points out that we are now the highest in Europe and second overall if we ignore China's lies for death rate, which has now surpassed 30,000. So while the government has been championing the successes, how did it come to this? My opinion, by the way, regardless of the infection and death count, is that we have to try and see the positive and a way forward, while also coming to terms with the fact that we did fail because one person died. I'm not now saying because one died it wasn't worth acknowledging, you know what I mean. So to Boris's answer, he agrees that Keir is right to highlight the appalling statistics. He does cite professors and say that we don't and should not use global statistics for comparison. That will come back to bite him on the backside in a moment. He does then finish by repeating the aim of saving lives and saving the NHS, along with how he wants to start the country up again. So to question 2, that biting on the backside, international comparison. For this, he holds up government-issued statistics from their press briefings on world numbers, along with reminding everyone of the hindsight brigade. Yes, that's me being snarky. Keir's question centres around the issue of care home-related passings. Why hasn't the government gotten to grips with this already? The answer? Boris talks about regret and not doing more for care homes. He does, however, correct Starmer on current statistics that show improvement, because in the question, Keir did indicate statistics were on the rise for death. For Keir's third question, he points out that the statistics are from a government press briefing. They are, however, a bit out of date. The question he now asks is on testing. What does the Prime Minister think was so special about the 30th of April that meant that testing on that day was higher? Opinion: there is nothing wrong with having a goal to aspire towards. But he does have a point. And this is because on that day, testing was the highest, but it hasn't been matched any day since. Boris's answer is that capacity currently exceeds demand, with him setting out that he wants to double the initial goal of 100,000 to 200,000. For question 4, Keir Starmer agrees and is happy that the target will be by the end of May, 200,000. Now there is a problem with contact tracing, and can the Prime Minister clarify the position for us? Why was contact tracing abandoned in mid-March and not restarted sooner? Boris's answer was to talk about containment and how transmission changed things drastically, with him continuing about how the government, scientists and medical staff have had to adapt to the change so as to test, track, trace and best help the infected. I'm not sure it was an answer, but I'll let you all decide. For question 5, Keir confirms it was a capacity problem that Boris was trying to say, but because he waffled. Yeah. And wishes the government well on the track and trace app in the Isle of Wight. As an update on that app, it doesn't work on Apple phones unless they're unlocked, and it is one of those apps, one of those rather pesky ones, that drains the battery incredibly fast. The question 5 is about personal protective equipment. 48% of doctors have had to buy their own PPE or rely on donations. Can the Prime Minister reassure the public they won't be asked to return to work until that plan is in place? Plan to make sure that they are 100% covered. Answer: yes. He does waffle, but the answer is yes. For the final question, it is furlough related. He wants reassurances. Will the Prime Minister give the reassurance and come to the House on Monday to present the government's plan for ending lockdown and answer questions? The answer: Boris doesn't really give an answer but does imply that he might be there for debate and questions, but it is unlikely. This went quite quickly, so I'm going to quickly address one of the paper perverts questions. He asks the Prime Minister to reiterate non-essential travel is prohibited. I'm not a fan of that word, and I don't like the idea of banning people from travelling. And considering we're about to relax the lockdown, I don't think this question is remotely interesting. But it is worth pointing out that while he does care, and it should be recognised that it is clear Blackford cares, it is an utterly pointless question. The Speaker does, at one point during this, rather amusingly chastise one who used the video conference, whatever it was, to ask a question for having political slogans in the background of his video or room. Maybe he should have replaced it with porn. With PMQs, my view was, while Keir is very concise, this is clearly something there is no political divide over. It is simply a case of, let's resolve the issue, but the only time Keir shows any remote strength is when he uses hindsight, which I consider to be pointless at the moment. Until the problem is properly dealt with, hindsight is irrelevant. Reviews will undoubtedly take place and fingers will be pointed and blamed accordingly then. Until then, resolve the issue. But because of how calm he comes across, people say he won. Others will say, like the Daily Mail, he did not. People latch onto Boris's own natural mannerisms as a weakness, but I argue they are actually very, very much a useful weapon, because I was able to discern very quickly that he did in fact answer 5 out of 6 questions. Question 4 I'm not entirely sure about when it comes to contact tracing, and he didn't really explain why the 30th of April was so special. He could have just said because that was a government goal, but he didn't. Although that entirely could have been bait from Keir Starmer, and he may well have recognised it as such. With PMQs, I'm very much interested to know what you think, so please do let me know in the comments down below.